Hey, what's up guys? My name's Jessica. I'm a full service SW from Brisbane, Australia. I am the host of the Latex Files podcast where I talk about a whole manner of things about the adult industry and full service SW if you're interested. And I create TikTok content and Instagram content. Alrighty, so today I'm going to give you guys some insight or information as to how escorts manage STI risk. Now, the first thing I want to say is that each person's sexual health and their risk appetite around STIs is completely different and it's completely up to them. What that means is I'm under no obligation as an SW to ensure that my clients do not contract an STI. The only obligation that I'm under, which is the same obligation as other people in the community that you would sleep with, is that if I know that I have an active STI infection, for example, if I know that I have chlamydia, or if I know that I have HIV, then I must take what's called reasonable precautions in order to prevent that from spreading to the client. And that is the exact same standard as any layperson in the community is also under. So if you meet a lady at a bar and she sleeps with you knowing that she has chlamydia, right, and she doesn't take reasonable precautions such as suggesting the use of condoms, then that she's in trouble there. I'm under the same standard. So all this is to say that S is a risky activity regardless of whether you're paying for it or you're not paying for it. The risk of STI transmission is always there. So if you are a married man, for example, and you getting an STI would kill you, okay, you'd be getting a divorce because you're going to go home straight away and sleep with your wife in between getting like a test and stuff and making sure that you're all good after that STI encounter. If that is you and you fall into that category, then you should not be engaging with this service at all. And indeed, you should not be having an extramarital affair. Another really important thing to note is just to reduce the stigma and shame around SWs and acting like, we are like spreading diseases and whatnot in the community. That is not the case. SWs have the same rate of STI prevalence as the broader community in places where this work is decriminalised. So here in Australia, for example, where the work apart from South Australia is largely decriminalised, our rates of testing are actually really high, even though we're not subject to mandatory testing requirements. Like there's nothing in the legislation, there's nothing in the laws that says that we have to get tested at these specific intervals, okay? So for example, every month, 2 months, 3 months, there's nothing that says that. Nevertheless, our rates of testing in the community are quite high and our rates of STI prevalence are the same as the broader community. Therefore, if you think that you're at higher risk of an STI because you're going to see an SW, well, I want to say that that's probably not the case. You're probably at the same level of risk when you go meet a chick at a bar and you go and sleep with them as well. Now, in order to manage the risk of STI transmission, we do with the client what's called a health check. Now, if you go into maybe a lower cost worker who's just like banging out more quick bookings, okay, or you're going to a brothel or establishment, then what's likely going to happen is that after you've paid the money, you're going into the room and you're basically dropping trousers and she's going to have a look around there with a flashlight or look in your mouth and stuff as well, or around your mouth. Why is this? Well, it's a quick method of deducing before you get into the service because they're more high volume ladies. It's a quick method to deduce whether or not you might have an active infection. Obviously, there are infections, there are cases where there's no physical, there's no way of detecting. Like you could be walking around with HIV and you may have no physical symptoms of that. So it's not a foolproof method, but obviously, it can help if the worker is seeing a wart, some sort of lesion, a cut, discharge, bleeding, anything like that that says that there's a bit of a risk here that there is an active infection happening, then obviously that gives the worker an opportunity to deny service. Now, for the higher end ladies like myself, we typically don't do our quote unquote health checks. You'll hear that called the health check. We don't really do that in that way. We sort of take the risk that the clients that are coming to see us at our price point and stuff really want to, they typically wouldn't want to try to get in there and try to fake it till they make it. Okay, these are the type of clients that are higher end type of clients. They value their health and they don't want to put us at risk either. Like, there's always outliers to that, and I guess there might be people that try to sneak through with various things. Like I haven't experienced that where I felt like someone was trying to sneak something by me. So the way that we would typically do it is when the client goes in for a shower and when they come out, we're sort of like having a bit of a look down there. And then when I'm going down there to start to perform the service, I'm also having a bit of a look as well. And if I saw anything, I would stop. So yeah, that's the first line of defense, is that visual inspection that you'll hear called the health check. The second thing we do is we engage in regular STI checks. So I have a clinic nearby me where I live, and I will head in there every couple of months to get the full workup done. And I may go outside of that cycle if I feel like there might be something here. So the other week I actually went for an out of cycle appointment to my local GP, actually my doctor, just because I had a sore throat. I think it might have been like a strep throat or something. And so I said, okay, let's just do like swabs while I'm here. So obviously with regular testing, that means that the number of clients that might have been exposed to the STI or the active infection will be lower. And so you might be thinking, well, they should really have laws around that to like require workers get these tests at a particular interval. And I'm here to say that studies have been done on this, and they've actually found that where you have mandatory testing regimes, I don't exactly know why this is, but it's just true that where you have mandatory testing regimes, actually the prevalence of testing in the SW community reduces and the rates of STIs goes up. And the thinking behind it is just some theorizing, and thinking behind it is that where you have more government regulation and involvement around SWs, more like forcing SWs to do things, that scares off a whole lot of people in the industry, particularly marginalized and disenfranchised people that have real issues dealing with the government. These might include migrant workers. So it's really better for SWs and the broader community if there are no rules strictly requiring us to test at particular intervals. SWs in Australia have shown that we want to keep our clients safe and we want to keep ourselves safe, and we don't need the government to come in and step in and force us to do that. It's better for our clients, meaning it's better for our businesses as well. Like, we have an interest in keeping ourselves healthy because we don't want to infect our clients either. Another way that we risk mitigate with respect to STIs is the use of condoms and dental dams. Okay, so everyone knows what condoms are, but if you don't know what a dental dam is, that is a bit of plastic that can go over like the lady's downstairs, her front door. Now, it's important to note, of course, that condoms aren't always like a completely foolproof method. If you touch someone's eggplant with your fingers, or if you touch someone's lady parts like with your fingers and then you touch yourself, okay, there is a risk there that you can get an STI too. Saying that, condoms massively reduce the risk of transmission, particularly when they're used correctly, and SWs, we know how to use those correctly. But it's really important to reiterate again that each worker has a different risk tolerance with respect to STIs. That's why you'll see some workers like myself who are happy to receive oral, like on my downstairs, I'm happy to have that without the dental dam, without the plastic. And I mean, that's pretty much the standard here in Australia. Like that's really what independent ladies are offering in Australia. But each lady's different, and so some might not want to do that. And indeed, each client is different, and each client might not want to do that. Similarly, you know, I am happy to do things with my mouth without condoms for my clients, and some ladies are not happy to do that. And you know what? Some ladies are happy to go the full shebang, even backdoor, with no protection on their clients. So obviously you've got to have a look and a think about that as a client, okay? If you're really scared, like you're really worried about the risk of STI transmission, then if you're terrified of that, why would you go and pick a worker that's openly advertising on her ad all natural services, like in her front door and her back door, for example? Obviously you wouldn't do that. If you were petrified and you wanted the lowest risk, of course there is still a risk. It's a grown-up adult activity and there are risks that come with it. But if you were really more on the risk-averse side, well, then you would select a worker that doesn't offer uncovered anything. And indeed, you would probably select or even like scour through and select a worker who doesn't even offer any uncovered on their downstairs either. You might even want one that like doesn't do kissing either. You see what I mean? There's a spectrum of this. There's shades of grey to this, and it's really incumbent upon you as the client to take ownership and control of your own SUL health. Now, if you are SULE active with multiple partners, I would say regardless of whether you're seeing SWs or not, you should be going every few months. You should be going on your own to get your own STI check. And obviously, if you are married or in a relationship, like it would stand to reason, right, that if you're going to go see SWs or you're going to go have your extramarital affairs with whoever, Susan in the office, you don't know where Susan's been. You don't know who she's been seeing. Like, so you might want to get a test after you do that before you sleep with your partner. But these things can happen, right? Like that's why I'm trying to say, you know, each person has to risk mitigate for themselves, and every person has a different risk tolerance level. And, you know, workers who do particular services that I might not do, for example, I won't do uncovered in my downstairs. I wouldn't shame a worker who chooses to do that service because that's up to them and that's up to their clients as well. So look, I do hope that has answered some questions for you guys. I really don't want to like scare you about this thing. I really don't think it's a scary topic, guys, to be honest. Like I think SWs in the community in Australia are pretty well versed generally in what STIs look like in terms of symptoms, how to get tested, frequency of testing, how to use protection. So, you know, I think we're doing really well over here. I certainly wouldn't want to scare anyone about using the service, and I wouldn't want to scare anyone about having S generally. It's just to reiterate that it's not my responsibility to take care of your health or any other SW's responsibility to take care of your health. It is your responsibility, and there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to the like nature of the services that you want to engage in, the frequency of those services. Your responsibility to other people is only if you know that you have an active infection. You have a duty to the other person to take reasonable precautions in Australia, you know, to prevent that from transmitting. For example, if you know that you have HIV, then your reasonable precaution would be to get on PrEP medication and wait for your viral load to go to undetectable. That would be your reasonable precaution. But you wouldn't be under any duty to tell the other person that you have HIV. So once that viral load is down to 0, you have no duty to tell the other person. So I think, you know, just familiarize yourself wherever you are, whether it's in Australia, whatever state jurisdiction you're in Australia, or elsewhere around the world. Like, do familiarize yourself with, you know, what STIs look like so you can see the physical symptoms in other people as well, or be more readily able to see physical symptoms. Understand what your duties and obligations are vis-a-vis other people that you're engaging with, and get used to going and get tested. And don't feel shame. You know, your medical professionals, your medical practitioners have a duty of confidentiality to you. So it shouldn't matter if you're going in there for a test quarterly, just to be on the safe side. You shouldn't be getting shamed for that, for being sexually active. Like, it's a really good thing. Well, if you do like hearing about the adult industry, particularly full service SW, please head over to my podcast, The Latex Files, for even more stuff about SW. I am a Googleable person, so do have a click around and see what you can find. Thanks so much, guys.